All right, so we're starting this video in the gym, and you'll see why in a second. A couple of days ago, I wrote a blog about cognitive training and how it can help with the symptoms of mental illness, but also potentially prevent them. I had so much fun researching it and writing it that I decided, let's make a video. So that's what we're doing. We're starting in the gym today to define our terms, right? Namely neuroplasticity and cognitive training. So first, neuroplasticity is the process by which you use the connections in your brain to strengthen them or reform them to make them better or faster, etc. And it's similar to the fibers of a muscle. So if you're asking yourself, Carl, did you get a cheeky pump before this so that you would look better on camera? Yes, I did. But it's similar to the muscles in a bicep, right? So you have your bicep muscles, and if you use them more, you get bigger biceps. That's the whole point of coming to the gym. And it's the same thing with your brain, or it's a similar thing. Remember, we're taking very complicated subjects, making them actually usable and simple. So oversimplification, but you get the idea, right? When you use the neurons in your brain the same way when you use the fibers of your muscle, they get stronger, they get better, they get more efficient. So that's what we're doing. So that's neuroplasticity. It's just that process. Use it, make it better, stronger, faster, reformed, right? When we talk about cognitive training is like the gym itself, right? It's like the exercise. So if I do bicep curls, I can have good form or bad form. Right? Good form on a bicep curl is when you isolate, you're only using the bicep, and therefore the bicep does the work and grows because those are the fibers that are being used. If I have bad form, maybe I'm using my back, maybe I'm using my glutes, maybe I'm using a million different things, and my bicep strength suffers because I'm not using it, it's not doing as much work. Cognitive training is similar in that the point of cognitive training is to isolate a specific part of your brain so that it can actually do the work and it can grow and it can become better specifically. So you're actually targeting the same way good form targets specific muscles. Now in this video, we're going to talk about does it work, does it not work, because there are two schools of thought here and kind of we're going to explore both. But at least now you know cognitive training is about isolating a certain part of your brain so that it can do the work, and neuroplasticity is just when you do the work, you get stronger. As simple as we can be so we can actually use the information. So here's the rest of the video. Yes, I got a sick pump.
So this idea of neuroplasticity and exercising your brain or using your brain to improve it is not new, right? It's been researched heavily and it's been known for a long time. But as that research has become more mainstream and got more popular, it's created this market of cognitive training brain games is kind of what I'll call it. It's apps and websites and coaches that make claims like we will enhance your mental health or enhance your brain or improve your cognitive function in some way. And they all say that they're backed by top neuroscientists at top universities, etc. So today we're going to talk about, when it comes to those brain games, one, do they work? And two, are they even worth it? So first the question, do they work? Well, it turns out that's actually a bad question, right? Because not all brain games or not all cognitive training is created equal. In response to the fact that we don't really know how to identify a good brain game versus a bad one, the US Institute of Medicine actually put out a checklist that says, hey, if your brain game or your cognitive training fits into these 5 criteria, then it is likely valid. Right? I don't want to say it's always great, and I don't want to say that brain games that don't fit in are always bad, but fitting into these 5 categories or checking off these boxes, it increases the validity of a brain game or a cognitive training program. And so right now we'll go through those 5 so that you can understand them, so that you can actually do some validity checks yourself. Now remember, the purpose of this video is to give you just another weapon in the arsenal, right? Mental health is a puzzle, and if you're working on yours, you're trying to help a loved one with theirs, it's helpful to know all of the possible pieces that could fit into your puzzle or your loved one's puzzles. Cognitive training brain games could be a piece of your puzzle. It could not. The point of this video is not to advocate for it or advocate against it. It's just to educate you on how to make a good informed decision with your doctor, ideally, who knows you and is capable of diagnosing and is qualified to make these decisions. But at least now you have the ability to have an educated conversation about cognitive training, about brain games, and to do some research on your own and actually know what you're talking about. So with that, let's get into the checks. The first, has the product demonstrated transfer of training to other laboratory tasks that measure the same cognitive construct as the training task? Break it down. Let's see what this means. essentially, does the brain game improve something, a thing, and does that improvement hold up in multiple lab tests, right? If a brain game says it improves memory, are there tests, like studies, that show that people did multiple memory tests before and after this training, and after the training, their memory improved, right? In multiple different tests. If there was only one test, all it would show you is that someone got better at that test for the brain game, which probably isn't applicable in the real world. Multiple tests makes it seem like, okay, the memory is actually getting better, not just your strategy on this one test. So that's question one. 2, has the product demonstrated transfer of training to relevant real-world tasks, right? Did the brain game improvement actually hold up in the real world? If it doesn't hold up in the real world and just holds up in the lab, then it is not useful, or likely not useful. Has the product performance been evaluated using an active control group whose members have the same expectations of cognitive benefits as do members of the experimental group? Okay, so really quick, let's just define terms here. A control group helps you know that your results aren't random. Right? So let's say I have a weight loss drink, just for an example to make it easy. I have a weight loss drink and I give it to 10 people and they all lose weight. Great. But I don't have a control group. So I don't actually know if the weight loss drink is doing the weight loss or if it's something else. So I put in a control group, and the control group does the exact same thing. They wake up at the same time, they do the same exercises, they eat the same things. The only difference is that one drinks the weight loss drink and the other drinks water that they think is the weight loss drink. Right? At the end of the study, if the people drinking water and the people drinking the weight loss drink both lose the same amount of weight, then something else is causing weight loss. But if the people drinking the weight loss drink lose more weight than the people drinking water, then you know the drink is what's causing the weight loss. You see what that means? So you're basically checking to make sure the variable you're testing is actually doing the work in your study. You want to make sure that there's a control group, and pretty much every study will have a control group. If it doesn't, I don't know, it's standard to have randomized control groups and things like that. The next check, how long are the trained skills retained? If a brain game shows improvement, then that's great. But if that improvement lasts 5 minutes after you finish whatever session, then it's probably not worth it. Look for studies about how long the skills are retained. No skill will be permanent. I want to say there is no magic bullet. There's no like, oh, play this for a month and then forever you're better. That's just never going to happen. It's like a muscle, right? You can lift and you can work out, but eventually you're going to have to go back to the gym to retain muscle mass. It's the same thing. But it'd be nice if you didn't lose the skill 5 minutes after coming out of the training. So look for some skills about retention, because that'll impact whether it's worth it for you or not. And then lastly, have the reported benefits of the training product been replicated by research groups other than those selling the product? So if a brain game company does research themselves, that's great. That's a great step. But the reality is that those researchers are biased. It's not because they're bad scientists. It's because they're human and they work for a company that wants this thing to win. So there's going to be some bias there. Having a third party that has no stake in the game confirm those and have some kind of peer review process there is a big step into saying, yeah, this is really, really valid. Now, I want to add a little warning here. I've gone to a number of brain training sites or cognitive sites just as research for this video, and I've seen a lot that say, like, our research or our brain games are backed by research and backed by top scientists. And then they'll cite a study. And on the website, they'll say, look, in this study, they used our games and saw a significant improvement. Great. But when you actually read the study, they didn't use that company's brain game. They used memory games, for example, just as an example. They used memory games, and that improved memory. And the brain game in question, the one promoting their regimen or their training, also uses memory games in their training. And so that's like a personal trainer saying that I have the best weight loss routine and it's backed by science. And then the science that they're citing is something like, yeah, doing cardio a lot helps you lose weight. It's like, yeah, I guess that's true, but it's almost like you're marketing the study as being about your training specifically or your routine, but it's not. It's just about exercise in general. That doesn't mean that the brain game doesn't work, but it is a little bit misleading to say our brain games improved XYZ cognitive function in this study, when in reality the study was testing kind of a more general or a more broad exercise, and that's an exercise or something that the brain game uses. There's a distinction there. There's a difference between saying, here's a study about our brain game, sponsored by us, backed by a third party, and there's another that says, here's a study that is about memory games, and we also use memory games, right? So there is a distinction there. Again, I'm not saying that a company that does this is bad or doesn't work. I am saying it is a little bit misleading, so be aware of that. If I were you and I was looking for this stuff, I would be frequenting a website called PubMed, PUBMED. I go there all the time for the research and the studies that I give you on these channels and in the blogs. If you just look up the company name or the brain game or something, and if research shows up, that's a great place to start. And of course, if any website or any training program is actually backed by science, they're going to put that front and center on the website. But just be careful, because sometimes they do put it on the website front and center, but the studies that they're citing aren't actually about their game. It's just about the concept that they follow when creating the game. So there is a distinction there, just something to know. So that kind of wraps up, do they work, right? Yes and no, up for you to decide for yourself. Also, like, up for your doctor to help you decide. This is a conversation that definitely do your research and come out with some conclusions, and use this video to as much as you can, and then take those findings that you have and the ideas you have and go to the doctor, because they have even more knowledge and they're even more qualified. So this is kind of helping you get educated. It's helping you be involved in the conversation, and that way taking control of your mental health, right? But the real question at the end of the day is it worth it? The reality is there are other options aside from cognitive training and brain games. There's things like physical exercise, socializing, meditation, diet, all these things that have been proven to improve cognitive function in some way, shape, or form, kind of across the board. And so if you have an hour a day, do you want to spend it on a brain game app, or do you want to spend it working out, right? What's kind of going to be more worth it? The fact that there's a lot more research that's needed for brain games is a part of that conversation. And the fact that a lot of brain games aren't backed by any research, or backed by some kind of half-ass research, is another part of that conversation. Again, the reality is that it's only up for you and your doctor to decide what's worth it and what's not for your mental health. The idea of this video, I'm not telling you it's worth it. I'm not telling you it's not worth it. I am hoping that after this video, you have an idea of how to check for a good, solid, reliable cognitive training program, how you can take those checks and go to your doctor and talk about, hey, I think this is a piece of the puzzle for my mental health or for my loved one's mental health. And now you guys can have that conversation. It's just another piece, another arrow in the quiver, another weapon in the arsenal, however you want to call it. But now you have just another thing that can possibly help you out. And now you're educated enough to bring it up to a doctor, talk about it, or try it for yourself. Good luck trying it. If you have any questions, if you go to the website, there's like a Ask Us. You can ask us a question for free. You'll put in your email, but it's just so that we can let you know once we get the question, and we'll create some content. We'll let you know when it's released. And that way, hopefully we can get some more specifics. If that's what you need, we can respond to whatever questions you have, and hopefully help you out in the best way we can. Until next time, good luck.